Now you have arrived at the final page, 9. May God increase your patience and guidance, inshallah. As you can see, it's entitled, Why More Than the Majority Are Following Falsehood. If you saw everything that I've taught you by God's will from page 1 to here, 9, you must have come to the conclusion that everything the Quran says about Salat, contact prayer, is not what the whole world is following right now. Let's see why according to the Quran, as to why more than the majority of the people are following falsehood and not the correct teachings of the Quran. First I put here Surah 11 verse 118 as it says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. And if your Lord willed, He could have made mankind one nation of believers, but they will not cease to differ the truth, except on whom your Lord has mercy will not dispute the truth. And for that He created them, and the word of your Lord has been fulfilled. I will surely fill hell with jinn and humans all together. Then in Surah 32 verse 13 says, And if we willed, we could have given every soul its guidance, but the truthful word is from me, and I will surely fill hell with jinn and humans all together. This was God's decision since the beginning of our creation, and I made a video of that by God's will, which is called Satan vs. God. Click here to see it if you haven't, which explains why we are here using all the verses from the Quran. Now God gives us a way to calculate the total number of people basically going to hell and heaven, inshallah, here in Surah Joseph, verse 103 and 106. Let's read 103 first. And most of mankind, no matter what you do, will not believe. And in 106 it says, And the majority of those who believe in God do not do so without committing idol worship. Idolatry is the unforgivable sin, according to Surah 4 verse 48 and verse 116, if you die in that state and not as a monotheist Muslim. Therefore, based on this basic logic, here on the left, I made a minimum probability calculation in percentages. As you can see here, I put above the minimum probability Surah 12 verse 103 here, and I put above the minimum probability Surah 12 verse 106 here. And on the right, you have the believers, and on the left, the disbelievers. So starting with the minimum probability, Surah 12 verse 103 above it, the minimum in correlation with Surah 12 verse 103 is 50.01% for the disbelievers and 49.99% for the believers. Because God says in Surah 12 verse 103 that most of mankind, no matter what you do, will not believe. Therefore, this is the minimal probability percentage. Now here, the minimal probability with Surah 12 verse 106 above it says that the majority of those who believe in God do not do so without committing idol worship. So the minimum majority of the believers here is 49.99% will be divided into two, and the majority will go to the disbelievers. So an additional 25% on top of the 50.1% from Surah 12 verse 103. Thus you have a total of 75.01% of disbelievers and 24.99% of believers. This is based on a minimum probability percentage with these two verses in Surah 12 verse 103 and verse 106. Now here on the right, you have the exact same concept as you can see here highlighted in green. It's the maximum probability percentage though. The maximum in correlation with Surah 12 verse 103 is now 99.99% for the disbelievers and 0.01% for the believers, because God says in Surah 12 verse 103 that most of mankind, no matter what you do, will not believe. Therefore, this is the maximum probability percentage here. Now here, the maximum probability percentage with Surah 12 verse 106, above it says that the majority of those who believe do not do so without committing idol worship. So the maximum majority of the believers here, 0.01%, will be divided into two again, and the majority will go to the disbelievers. So an additional 0.009% on top of the 99.99% from Surah 12 verse 103. Thus you have a total of 99.999% of disbelievers and 0.001% of believers. This is based on a maximum probability percentage with these two verses in Surah 12 verse 103 and 106. Now finally, we have the average probability percentage highlighted here in turquoise in the center. Again, it's the same concept as the minimum and a maximum, which you therefore have an average of the two. So you add the minimum with the maximum and then divide it by 2, and voila, you have the numbers you see here. Now this is of course not the accurate percentage because only God knows them. However, this gives you an average idea. Hence, you have 87.5045% of total disbelievers on average that will go to hell, and only 12.4955% of total believers that will go to heaven, inshallah. Now here on the right, you have Surah 56 verse 7, which says, you'll be stratified into three kinds. This is on the day of resurrection. Then in Surah 56 verse 8 says, thus the companions of the right, what are the companions of the right? What you see here on the right. Then the next verse here at the left says, and the companions of the left, what are the companions of the left? That's why I put it here on the left. And then you have Surah 56 verse 10, the next verse, third kind, which says here on the right, then there is the elite of the elite. So those are the three kinds. Those on the right on the day of judgment, those who will be on the left, and the elite of the elite. As you can see, there are two kinds of believers and one big group of disbelievers. But in Surah 7 verse 46 to 50, there is a group within the Araf, the purgatory, where these men are neither in heaven nor in hell, but because of God's mercy they enter paradise and are saved from the hellfire. So therefore, here on the right, the percentage 12.4955% is divided into three. So each group is about 4.1651% of believers each. Now here on the left, you have Surah 15 verse 43 to 44, which is when God made his judgment to fill hell with jinn and humans, as it says, and hell awaits them all. It will have 7 gates. Each gate will get a specific share of them. And that's why 87.5045% is divided by 7 here. Remember, this is just an average idea of those entering heaven and hell, inshallah. I have here a population of 7,085,230,015, which our population currently is much more than that now. That's why I wrote here more than. So below, you have 87.5045% of 7,085,230,015, which is more than 6,199,895,098, and so on, are going to hell. That's a lot of people, without including jinns of our time. That's almost 9 out of 10 people you see. And here on the bottom, you have 12.4955% of 7,085,230,015, which is more than 885,334,916 million people going to heaven. Now that too is a lot of believing people, mashallah. That's almost like America times 3. Therefore paradise is not empty of human believers, but there is a lot, inshallah. However, there's so much disbelievers that only God can save you, inshallah. Now here is the main reason for the Muslim population failing. Here on the middle left says, and when you recite the Quran, we place between you and between those who do not believe in the hereafter an invisible barrier, and we have placed shields over their hearts to prevent them from understanding it, and deafness in their ears. And when you mention your Lord using the Quran alone, they run away in aversion. As you can see, they can't just use the Quran alone to explain their religious duties, just like the Salat contact prayer, which the glorious Quran is even more detailed than any hadith. Subhanallah. That's proven on page 3. And another reason is what's here on the right, Surah 39 verse 45. And when God alone is mentioned, the hearts of those who do not believe in the hereafter shrink with aversion. But when others are mentioned beside him, they become satisfied. And that completes page 9, the final page of this document. This document, by the way, is available upon request. If you want this document, please email me and I'll send a copy to you. And if you are going to send this document to anybody, please copy me on it. When you send an email, there's a place where you have CC. And if you don't want the other person to see me being copied on it, put me on BCC so he won't see that. The last verse of the biggest surah. God does not charge a soul beyond its ability, for it is what it earned, and against it is what it merits. Our Lord, do not hold us responsible if we forget or make mistakes. Our Lord, and do not lay upon us a load like that which you have laid it on those who were from before us. Our Lord, and do not lay on us what we do not have the strength for it, and pardon from us, and forgive for us, and have mercy on us. You are our protector. Please support us against the disbelieving people. And remind, for the reminder benefits the believers. Therefore remind, perhaps the reminder will benefit. I have only been commanded that I worship the Lord of this town, the one who made it sacred, and to him belongs all things. I am commanded to be among the submitters, and that I recite the Quran. Thus, whoever is guided for his nafs, his thoughts, self, and soul, and whoever goes astray, then say, I am only among the warners. And say, Praise be to God, He will show you His proofs until you recognize them, and your Lord is never unaware of anything you do. Subhanallah.